Hey everyone, let's get the music rolling.
We cried a little bit just doing that.
Ari was making me sob in the background, everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know whether to be somber tonight or whether to be slap happy because of the state of things. Let me tell you. Before we get into anything, I'm just going to go right into the mission statement. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, let's start with the mission statement.
We live in a dynamic society where social media shapes us by creating greater opportunities for connection. It has led to a developing understanding of the adversity many marginalized communities face, the powers causing the adversity, and those who act as bystanders as atrocities take place in real time. Our goal with this show is to make connections and have challenging conversations about social topics, current events, pop culture, and art. Together, let's weave the threads of understanding with what privilege we have in order to learn, educate, and create in a world that's growing.
I'm not going to cry.
I'm not
going to cry.
I'm going to try not to cry. So, everyone, welcome back to Restitching the Tapestry. It is, by our recording time, Wednesday, November 6th, 2024, the day after the election. We will talk about that here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But you might be wondering why we're coming to you pre-recorded as opposed to live. And
that's my fault.
Well, I think it's a decision that we both mutually made. So
yeah.
Just an FYI, everybody, we are concluding Restitching the Tapestry.
Yeah.
This will be our final season. We have about, including this, 7 episodes to go. And we didn't make this decision lightly. It was a very important decision for us. And we feel good about it. But Ari, I want you to have a moment to talk about your reasoning as to why we're concluding Restitching the Tapestry.
Well, the reason why we're ending the show is mostly because of me. It's my reasoning for ending the show. I'm not the same person that I used to be on the internet. It's a long story. It has to do with my mental health mostly. It's a lot. The way that I interact online has completely changed in the last 3 months or so. I would say that it's gotten more dramatic in the last month. Like October was really, really hard on me. And I've come out of October a completely different person in the way that I interact online. I have a hard time having intelligent conversations anymore. Like this last show that we did, it was almost, I couldn't even almost do the show. It was so hard. And I knew that at that point that continuing to do the show in a live format was just impossible. It was just not going to be feasible at that point. Because the way that I am now is different. We're going to get into some specifics here. We're just gonna
whatever you're comfortable with, my friend.
I do things that I take speech and I personalize it. I don't know how to explain that more than that. Like people will be talking and they'll be talking about something that's completely unrelated. And I make it about myself. I don't know how to. And so it's very difficult to feel like speech is not aggressive to me anymore, especially this last month, talking about like a lot of topics online. There was just a lot of like really aggressive speech, you know, around politics, around a lot of different things, talking about things that was just very difficult. And it wasn't even on the show. It was just in general online. Just being on YouTube itself was just very aggressive, and it was very hard for me. And so, you know, I deleted my tarot channel. I deleted, I've deleted most of my social media. I deleted my Facebook. I'm pretty much going to, I'm not even sure I'm going to post anymore online. I'm thinking about deleting all of my YouTube channels and just starting over from scratch and just not having any YouTube channels at all. I don't know. I don't know where the next steps for me are beyond this, but this is kind of part of this progression that I'm just slowly, you know, removing myself from media because I just cannot be online and put myself out there anymore because it's so detrimental to my mental health that I'm slowly like, it's eroding me away. And I just am not able to function online in a capacity where I'm able to put myself out there anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I first commend you for reaching this because I think that being able to kind of like verbalize this and actualize it, like it can be very difficult to do, right? And I think so. When Ari approached me about concluding the show, it was after our prior episode, and our prior episode did have moments where we kind of like talked about some like very heavy stuff, and that was kind of like our test run with your return, right, to see like how it would go. And I think at first you seemed very excited to do it, but then like I think I could kind of see reality hitting you a little bit while we were doing the episode.
Yeah.
And then you messaged me the next day being like, hey, like here is where I am. And I mean, obviously I'm sad that the show is ending because I love it very much and I love doing this with you, but like that's not gonna change. We're still gonna have conversations. We're still gonna like, it just won't be in this type of space, right?
Right.
But I know for me, I felt at peace about this decision a little bit. I know there, like after I made the announcement a few days ago, there were a number of listeners, including some who had like never commented, who just came out of the woodwork being like, oh my God, I'm gonna miss this. They were like, well, we find a lot of comfort in what you do. Like, is everything okay? Like between us, like people were worried that something was happening between us. And I was like, no, we're good. We're already.
Yeah, we just always had, between Donny and I, we've always had a kind of agreement between us that if the show was not fun for us, if we both didn't like enjoy doing the show, that if it wasn't fulfilling or fun for us, then it was time to end the show. And so for me with my mental health, because I'm not having that, it's hard for me to do the show. It wasn't fulfilling me in the way that I needed to be fulfilled, and it wasn't fun for me anymore because I was struggling with it. It was time to end.
Yeah. And as your friend, I respect that decision, right? And I think that's where I was approaching it because, like, one, I respect your decision because your mental health matters. I mean, hell, we've been on this mental health journey for, you know, like monitoring each other's mental health, checking in with each other for a long time. But I also feel at peace and I feel like a wholeness and a wholesomeness about the fact that we have done this much. How many podcasts can you say have gone 5 seasons, over 175 episodes? We literally have spent 5 years of our life doing this almost every Thursday. And I know like the first day, like the first day we made this decision. I know it was kind of a shock to my system. I got really emotional later in the day, but then I was like, I'm not emotional because I'm like devastated. I'm emotional because I'm proud of what we've done.
Oh, I was emotional because I got emotional because the end show was ending. I started bawling because I was like, because this show has been like such a huge part of my life, and so this was not an easy decision to be like, oh yeah, just throw in the show away. Like, yeah, see you later. Screw Donny. Like, oh yeah, bye. See you later.
Well, and I knew you did not think that way because of how considerate and respectful your message was. Like, you were just being like, hey, Donny, like, this isn't enriching me anymore. And we had that agreement, right? And I was like, absolutely. Like, I can end here and be completely content with what we've done over the past 5 years. We've talked about so many different, hundreds of different topics. We've covered so many current events. And I kind of think of this in the legacy context. I think of our show as almost being like a map of the past 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think what's most important to me is, and I was telling this to Ari a few days ago, what's most important to me is I feel like this is an extension of our friendship. And looking back over the last 5 years, it is a collective celebration of our friendship, which I value more than anything.
I value our friendship so much. You're like, you're family to me, Donny.
Oh, oh God, you're gonna make me cry. You're family to me too.
I was in the hospital and I was calling Donny and I left a voicemail on his phone, and he was like there for me when I was really low, and I don't, like Donny's been there for me through like thick and thin, when I was, whenever I have good days or bad days, like you've been there for me, man. You've been there for me.
Oh, you've done the same. Ooh.
I hope I've been there for you.
You have absolutely been there for me. I'm
gonna miss this show so much.
I'm gonna miss it too.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I feel it too. And I hope that all of you feel the same way we do, because I've had so much fun.
I just can't do it anymore. It's just, I'm different now, and it's hard to do the show. And it's not that this is like forever, maybe like my mental health will improve someday and like we'll be able to do it again in the future, but I just can't do it now.
Yeah. And I've already mentioned you, like, hey, if you ever want to come back, we can do a revival.
I know.
Not me and the damn revivals.
Because we have such good times together when we talk.
We do.
And
oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, and because I had a couple people being like, well, will we still be able to watch it? Like, and I'm like, yes, it's going to still be here.
Yeah.
It's still going to be on streaming services as well.
Yeah.
So you will, if you have a day where you really miss our conversations, go back and watch an episode.
Yeah.
Watch season 1 at your discretion, because it was a little rough, but
they get better as they go along. We fall into our groove as we move along.
We've aged like fine wine.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get emotional saying this. I apologize, but again, I've mentioned this before, but you set me on the YouTube trajectory, Ari, back in college.
What's your favorite episode from our seasons?
My favorite episode? Oh my God, that's such a hard choice. A
hard choice. There's so many good ones.
I love our Pride episodes.
Some of the Pride episodes are some of my favorite ones.
There was one episode this season that I think was my favorite. We will have a day. I think one of our series finale is going to have a segment probably where we talk about our favorite episodes. But I do know I think it was one of the Pride episodes this year that was my favorite. So what about you?
What was that one episode where I dressed up like an angel and we got so many MAGA guys that came on her? What was that episode?
I think that was last season.
What episode was that?
I think it was in the 100 teens, if memory serves.
We had because it was something about, I don't remember what the episode name was. I don't remember. But I dressed up like an angel and people thought it was a joke that we were like making some kind of like joke about something.
I do remember that.
But it was something about like it wasn't about forgiveness because we did that this season, but it was something about like it was something liberal.
Of course it was something liberal. That's all we do.
I know, but it was something like extremely liberal. Like it was something like it was like a very liberal topic, and people thought we were joking about like being liberal. Like we were cracking jokes about because they thought we were conservative, joking about being liberal or something.
Oh, I'm trying to think of what one.
The Queen episode was really
yeah.
When the Queen died, that was a good episode too.
I don't know which I'm gonna have now. Was it the Being Woke episodes? It may
the Being Woke. That was exactly at the Being Woke episode.
That was wild.
Yes, that's what it was. Exactly it.
Oh my goodness. No, I've had so much fun doing this, and just to assure everybody, we will be finishing off the rest of the season. Ari has agreed with me that we're gonna do it pre-recorded. So after this episode, there's going to be 3 more pre-recorded episodes.
Yeah,
and then the rest of them will be the post-season edits. And the last post-season edit will be like a memories edit that I want to put together. And it's going to be great. I'm pretty excited. But for our series finale, it's going to be, I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. It might be a little bit, we might record a little bit longer. Like if you're okay with that for the series finale to kind of capture the essence of everything. But,
yeah.
At the end of the day, Ari, like, me, if you wanted to end it at that last episode, I would have been okay with it. I would have found a way to bookend the show. But now that you're okay with doing the rest of the season, I think we're going to give it a proper send-off.
Yeah.
And I hope that people feel a sense of fulfillment at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm. I hope so too.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about we're not just talking the state of the podcast tonight. We're talking about the state of America. And I'm laughing right now because I have had the entire day to cry and be upset and to have scheduled mental breakdowns. But the election was yesterday.
This is the weird episode because we don't have any notes for this episode.
We don't have any notes. We're just
on the fly talking about this episode. And for us, like, we're both Capricorn type A personality people. It's very like, this is a weird episode when neither one of us have anything written down. Like, even when we're like, oh, we're going to do this on the fly, we have 11 Google Docs full of notes for our show.
Maybe someday there will be like a special that I will do where I will like do the whole, like, show everybody the back end of, that sounds bad. Show them the behind the scenes,
yeah.
the back end. What is wrong with me? Of Restitching the Tapestry, but we will see if that happens. No, but like,
people realize how much we do behind the scenes of our show. Like, what I was doing and what you were doing behind the scenes. Like, you do all this like StreamYard stuff, and you do like stuff on Facebook, and like you do like a lot of. How much free time are you gonna have now?
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
Do you want to know how? So I'm sure the audience knows just how type A we are, because we are the epitome of type A. But I am so type A that I went through just for fun and I calculated how many hours we've spent working for Restitching the Tapestry.
Yeah.
And so basically by the end of the show, I am estimating that we have put in well over 300 hours.
300 hours?
300 hours. So divide that by 24 hours a day. We've spent 12.5 days of work. If we stayed up for 12 and a half days doing nothing but restitching the tapestry, that would equal what we've done over 5 years.
That is amazing.
And I am no mathematician.
But it's worth it. It's worth it for the show.
It is worth it. But yeah, in all seriousness, obviously with regard to the election, there were a couple people who, after we made the announcement a few days ago, they commented being like, oh my God, like you normally, like this would be like the type of event you would talk about, right? And we wanted to honor that with this episode.
Yeah.
But yesterday, the election happened and Donald Trump got elected as president again.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty significant turnout for him. Essentially, he also got the popular vote, which was concerning as well.
Yeah.
And honestly, today, I feel like I've just been in survival mode. How have you been feeling?
So, I talked to Donny yesterday. I had put my phone on, because I had talked about this with my therapist, what I was going to do. Like we had kind of gone through, is like, I have been kind of in survival mode for several weeks now about like how I was going to deal with certain conversations and certain events. And so this was one of the events that I had kind of, game played. And we had talked about, worst case scenario. This was the worst case scenario, like what I would do if he won and what I would do if all of this happened. So I was kind of like prepared for all of this, happening. It still was hard, but yesterday I just turned off, put my phone on airplane mode and I just listened to the rain. And I didn't watch any of the news. I just listened to music all day. And I wrote, I worked on my screenplay and I worked on my book and I wrote poetry and I hung out with my cat and I made homemade Chipotle bowl out of stuff in my fridge. And I took a nap and I just laid around my house. I was sore because I went to the gym the other day with my nephew. And it was just another day in my house. There was nothing that was happening outside. There was just the wind and the rain. And finally at midnight, I checked and I had a vision that he won, and I knew. Because around 8 o'clock, I heard screaming outside, crying and screaming. And I knew then he probably had won.
Yeah.
And then, so by midnight, I knew that I had to check. And when I knew that he was leading in the polls, I knew he was going to win.
Yeah.
And then, so I was up most of the night, kind of tossing and turning. And then the next morning, it was obvious he had won. He had done his victory speech. And so I was just waiting for Kamala's concession speech because I wanted to hear what she had to say. Yeah. And so I waited around my mom's house all day for that. And then I listened to Mrs. Harris concession speech. And she said some very eloquent things. I don't know if you heard her speech.
I've not watched her speech yet, but I've seen some of the quotes and some of the sound bites and snippets.
It was, that was the first time I had cried all day about it. Because it was so moving. I hadn't heard her speak very often during the campaign. I just knew that I was going to vote for her. And so, it didn't really move me to like listen to her speak very much because, I just was behind her 100%. And so it just, you kind of get behind a candidate and you go, I don't, I know their values. I know who they are. I know what type of person is. So you don't hear her speak very often. And so listening to her give her speech, I just remembered how great of a candidate she is. And it just reminded me how much I really liked her and why I voted for her. And I got real sad all over again. And it was real hard. It was real hard listening to her speak. Because it was sort of like that gut-wrenching of what could have been. Like that it was a concession speech and not a victory speech. And she said something, she said, when it gets dark in the law of history, they say that at least you can still see the stars. And I don't know, I have a poem that I wrote about it.
Definitely share it.
Can I read it?
Absolutely.
I wrote it for because there was a nerd fighter. John and Hank Green have a newsletter that they do called "We're Here," and it's the saying goes, "We're here because we're here because we're here." It's from Turtles All the Way Down. So I wrote a poem called "We're Here Because," as the saying goes, and the poem is, so the world is dark and the stars are out tonight, and it's beautiful and awesome. I shake from the cold and terror, a mortal standing in the vast shadow of the gods. They move mountains and seas and fields, and I am here because that is what I'm meant to be. I will do what I am meant to do because Athena came to me, goddess, and said, give prayer, give service, go about your business. Then words from the past, go about in love, give prayer, give service, give your neighbors credence they deserve. And then from my mother, don't cry, sweet baby. And then from my dear friend, the words, let's be brave and face the darkness. The world is dark and the stars are out tonight. And I say to them, all of us, standing in the shadow of the cosmos, we are here and it's our time to make the most of what we have.
Wow. Holy fuck. I feel like that captures the feeling perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was beautiful.
One of my neighbors just swore.
Your what?
One of my neighbors just was swearing outside.
Oh God. Me too, neighbor. Me too. No, that was a beautiful poem. And I think I posted something earlier today that it said, poets, we have work to do.
Yeah.
And I know you resonate with this being a fellow poet as well, but I feel like poets are always monitoring the pulse of society.
Yeah.
Right. And I think right now many of us are just doing what we can to sit down and write and process this. I have yet to sit down and write and process anything. I might later tonight. We'll see how I'm feeling. But for me personally, I spent most of the day yesterday watching the news, and probably shouldn't have, but I had it on in the background because honestly, like I had felt such an immense sense of optimism. Like and I'm kind of like retrospectively thinking about it now, like maybe I was just like nestled in my own little bubble echo chamber of optimism.
Yeah.
And I was just like, we got this. This feels really good. This feels so much better than 2016. Kamala has all the hope in the world because like Trump has literally been so increasingly problematic and worrisome. And as the day went along, like we eventually went to, like we had a couple friends message us and be like, hey, do you want to come over and do like a watch party with us? So we had like pizza and everything and drinks. But as the night went on, and as we got more results, as the polls closed, it started getting more and more bleak.
Yeah.
And at a certain point around like 10, we left. We got back home. Britt ended up going to bed to try to sleep because he had to get up early for work, but I stayed up until like 2 a.m. And I just sat up here in my office watching the results pouring in, and I cried. And I cried. And I was terrified. Still am terrified. But I was like, I got to go to bed. I can't keep doing this. So I shut it off. I was like, boundary set, going to bed. And I could barely sleep last night. But the moment I woke up and I knew, like, I looked at my phone like you did. And there it was.
Mm-hmm.
There it was. And I had a moment where Britt and I woke up and we looked at each other and we just like this dejection in our faces. And I think what really got to me most this morning was the realization that people who care about me, I know they voted for Trump.
Yeah.
This probably being their third time doing so. Regardless of his threat to our autonomy, our healthcare access, housing access, marriage equality.
It's horrible.
And it took me the better part of the day to kind of really process through those emotions. I think I didn't really want to go to school today, but like I went to school and like the whole mood at school was really somber, and a lot of us like faculty were like confiding in each other and talking. Everybody was like checking on me and the other marginalized faculty members, and they were really considerate of that. But I think knowing that I'm not alone in that feeling of like existential dread was good. But I think what really made me pan out and look at things was when I had my class tonight. I have a class with quite a few women, BIPOC individuals, LGBTQ plus people. And I told them, I'm like, hey, like this is going to be an easy night tonight, blah, 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 blah. And many of them did show up. And we listened to lo-fi music. I let them work on stuff. Some of them like talked, confided a little bit. And I could tell that like many of them were very much feeling the weight of everything too. But it made me realize that the way we show up after a defeat matters.
Yeah.
Because I remember at the beginning of the day, I just wanted to crawl into a hole. And for those people who opted to do that, that's totally fine. Like, I respect that 100% because sometimes you have to do that. But for me, crawling into a hole is not in my nature. Ari, you know me better than anyone. Like, I am very much this loud-mouthed, forthright, activisty person. And when I realized that I was feeling so low that even I felt like crawling into a hole, I was just like, okay, whoop. Like, we got to reorient. But, like, seeing my LGBTQ plus students and showing up and knowing that they needed that representation in that moment mattered to me a lot. And I think that's what kind of helped me get to where I am. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still very unsettled. I'm still really sad about all of this. I'm still scared. But I also feel a sense of seeing the stars, let's just say.
But there's something that Hank Green said, that's a C.S. Lewis quote that I wanted to read to you, that I think that might be helpful too.
I also have a quote too.
Which is good. He talked about C.S. Lewis. He wrote an essay about living in the shadow of nuclear war. And he said, if we're all going to be destroyed by an atomic bomb, let it be the bomb when it comes to find us doing sensible and human things, praying, working, teaching, reading, listening to music, bathing the children, playing tennis, chatting to our friends over a pint and a game of darts, not huddled together like frightened sheep thinking about bombs. And I think that not necessarily that, Trump is an atomic bomb, but it's that, when things are bad, you still should go about your life and do the things that you should be doing, because it's what you should be doing. It's continuing to live and do things and live your life.
I think when we stop, that's allowing them to win in a way. Mm-hmm. And no, I think that's a very powerful quote. I one that got me through the day today was somebody posted a meme from The Lord of the Rings of like Frodo and Sam talking to each other. And Frodo says, "What are we holding on to, Sam?" And Sam responded with, "That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for."
Yeah.
Because even though things seem so unbelievably heavy right now, it feels really dark. There are people we have to show up for, right? And we have to show up for ourselves first and foremost after we've granted ourselves the grace of grieving. But like, there are other people who haven't experienced this. I keep thinking about like the younger generation, right? Like they've not experienced this level of a loss.
Yeah.
On a political scale. And I think that us showing up is important because we can help them through it.
Right.
And each other through it, most importantly.
It's true. And the thing about it is we have to show the younger generation. You're right. We have to show the younger generation the way, and be strong for them. Plus, half the country didn't vote for Trump. Half the country didn't vote for Trump.
Yeah. So many people did still show up for Kamala. And I think that is important. Mm-hmm. But again, I think when it comes to any election, any sort of politician, we have to think about the rhetorical game that's being played.
Right.
And the truth is, Trump is a master of rhetorical manipulation. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people are able to discern when rhetorical manipulation is happening versus when it isn't. And that's part of the issue here.
Right.
But I think another part of the issue is I saw like there were a lot of people like myself like grieving online today. Some people were, very like, I don't want to say harsh, but they were like very assertive or even aggressive with like being angry. And there were other people who were like, "Why are you being hateful? Like, stop being so aggressive. Like, why are you upset?" And I had to stop a few people and be like, can we not criticize people for grieving right now? Like I mean, I don't approve of any hate, mind you. But like, there are some people who like reacted very strongly, who were angry. And it's like, I was telling them like, they're angry because they're scared. Like there's a reason for that anger. And I know, like, in a few of the conversations, I don't know how I had the bandwidth to have these conversations today, but, like, someone asked me, well, why are you even worried about marriage equality? Like, this seems to always be, like, the response. People will be like, well, why are you worried about marriage equality? Like, what's the big deal, right? And the truth is that when the Supreme Court, which is mostly conservative now, when they overturned Roe versus Wade, they were cited also talking about overturning Obergefell versus Hodges, which was the marriage equality case in 2015.
And that's what I said. Is like I don't know what's going to happen to.
Well, and I don't think people I think there is, like, this assumption, and I think part of it might have to be the realization that, like, maybe they don't know how the government branches work, which is fine, like, a whole nother conversation. But all it takes is a court case and a court that is moderately skewed in one direction, or not moderately, majorly skewed in one direction, right? So, yeah. So, like, having those conversations, like, having to do a lot of educating because just people don't know. And I think one of the big things that frustrates me is I get so angry when people tell me that I'm being overdramatic.
It's not dramatic, and they don't understand that it's like, it's our rights. It's our,
Right. And I feel like I'm being very restrained in my reaction. Like, my fiance and I are planning to get married next year.
That's what I said. I said that to my mom, and she didn't it didn't quite set with her that, like, that people's lives are at stake.
And so the thing is, like, my family, I'm fairly sure, 99% sure, voted for Trump for, again, like I said, for the third time. And if I ever bring up the marriage equality thing, or, like, the access or protections, etc., I always get the response of, like, well, it won't ever get that bad. It won't ever happen.
But it is. It's about to happen.
It's like, we literally, like, the bodies of women were just attacked with Roe versus Wade being overturned. That was huge. People thought that was impossible, right? So I, like, at this point, like, if you have a powerful group of people like that, nothing is off the table. Yeah, like nothing is off the table. All it takes is a court case, right? Now, do I hope? Do I feel optimistic that it won't happen? Yes, I do. Like, I'm an exhausting optimist. It got the best of me yesterday. I have to rein it in sometimes because I'm so optimistic. But
is it optimism or toxic positivity? I don't know. Is it realism? Can they do it in 4 years? Who knows?
I don't know. But it's led to some very sobering conversations today.
But, like, here's what Jon Stewart said. 8 months. 8 months of really bad stuff, and then midterm elections.
Yeah, the midterm elections will at least be something, like a fallback measure, right? This is why it's so important, like, people, when you vote, like, the state elections, school board elections, like, city management elections, they may seem like small and minuscule and, like, irrelevant, but they're not. Like, all of the structuring a lot of the time happens from the bottom up, right?
Well, they know that. Republicans know that.
Right. Yeah. But no, like, so yeah, it's been a lot to process today, and I think I'm going to end up having some very difficult conversations with family in the future. We'll see what happens. I don't know. They've been very quiet, surprisingly.
Yeah, a lot of people have been quiet today.
Yeah. I'm kind of grateful because if they had reached out to me today, I don't know how I would have responded. I probably would not have I probably would have been aggressive. But
they're kind of like tiptoeing around us, and I'm very nervous about that. Aren't you nervous? Doesn't that make you nervous?
It makes me nervous. It makes me nervous because I know the conversation's going to happen, and I know what response I'm going to get because it's always the same response over and over again. Of the big response I get, other than being overdramatic, is, why do you always have to make it about you, Donny? Or why do you always have to make it about being gay?
Yeah.
And to which I would respond with, well, literally it's my identity. Partially it's my area of study with what I do for a living. It is like both school and writing, the relationship front, housing front, that matters too. So many different things, health front. So no, like, I don't think it's all, like, it's literally an extension of our identity, right?
I'm nervous. I'm nervous about what the future holds.
I am too. I'm nervous about what the future holds, but I also feel like this sense of being resolute too.
Yeah.
Because during times like this is where people will do anything they can to try to change you or force you to change. And I think these are the moments where we need to really hold steadfast to who we are. As artists, as writers, I think this is an important time for us because, like I said earlier, we monitor the pulse of society. We need to commentate on this. We need to reflect on it. We need to write about it, make music about it, paint about it, because the future will see this. The future is going to look back at this and be like, what the hell was going on between 2016 and 2024? Right? And,
maybe.
Yeah. I'm hoping. Again, could be the optimist here. But I think that people will look back on it and be like, wow. Yeah. But I think also I'm hoping that what we produce now will help people in the future from growing complacent like we clearly have been, right? Because I really think that this has been a rude awakening for the left. Huge rude awakening. Is it a rude awakening that I want to acknowledge and admit to? Absolutely not. But it's one we have to look at. And if we want to get better, we have to examine it and figure out how we can clearly appeal to these people who made these decisions, right? How are you feeling, Ari?
Oh, there's shouting outside for some reason. Oh, I'm not sure. My neighbors are being loud.
But no, I do have hope for the future, but I think it's somebody. I watched this on TikTok earlier today because a lot of people were upset on TikTok, and somebody said, "This isn't our lesson to learn. This is their lesson to learn."
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's gonna be at our expense because what else is new? But when they realize that when they made their voting decision for the gallon of milk they buy at the store, the expense of people's literal existence, and their gallon of milk still stays, what, $3-4 and nothing happens?
Yeah, I mean,
the cost of living, don't get me wrong, is important and it should be addressed.
But for the cost of human life?
Exactly.
What kind of utopia is that?
It isn't a utopia. It's the opposite.
But the thing about it is, he's talking about doing mass deportation of immigrants, and that's going to send food prices skyrocketing.
Not to mention that the tariffs as well that he wants to impose.
Yeah.
Right. The fact that he if we look at education, like that if you go through and look at Project 2025, which we've talked about, right?
Yeah.
Like, he wants to completely do away with the Department of Education.
Yeah.
That's going to really mess up education. Education will still exist, but there won't be protections in place. There won't be modes of accessibility for students and institutions, etc. They won't have like that upper level of support, you know?
Yeah.
And then like I will have people be like, Donny, do you think it'll get that bad? Optimist me wants to say no, of course not. But realist me is like, don't grow complacent because you don't know, right? You don't know.
I'm not sure what the future holds, honestly. I'm at this point, I'm at a loss.
I am too. But I do know, because I think, are we feeling like we want to conclude here in a few minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to edit this part out of me talking, but I think that I think that we will make the realization that community is so important right now.
Yeah.
I really think community is like we have to nurse our wounds. We have to go back to our communities, and we have to continue to build things from the ground up again.
Yeah.
Today, case in point, I shared. I've literally had people who were expressing ideational behavior today, and I had to be like, oh my God, here's some resources for you. If you're an ally and you want to support communities, like marginalized communities, find the grassroots organizations in your communities and support them.
The election is nothing to hurt yourself over.
Exactly. It's not. And I know it feels so heavy, but your voice matters, those of you out there.
Yeah.
Right? And if you take that voice out of the equation, what does that do?
Right.
Right. So, I mean, I think feelings are valid, of course, but like, you're not alone in this feeling.
Don't hurt yourself. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And I you know, I'm gonna have links in the description of this video if anybody needs some resources.
Mm-hmm.
And please use those resources because they're out there.
Yeah.
Ari and I are lucky we have access to therapy.
And support systems.
Yeah, and we have a support system. We have each other that we can talk to and confide in. And I literally was texting. I texted my therapist today, and what was it?
I talked to my therapist today, and she was asking me how I was doing.
That's good. I'm glad that she was asking. So I told my therapist, I was like, I'm grateful we have a session this week.
Yeah.
And she responded with, I'm grateful I have such a wonderful, committed, and hardworking client. And then she's like, shall we continue with the gratitude train? And I said, I was like, LOL, any flicker of serotonin today is welcome.
Yes. Yes. Ooh, do we want to do some gratitude? Let's do some gratitude.
Let's do some gratitude. I think that's a perfect way. Let's do like advice and gratitude. Okay.
Okay.
So one thing I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for you.
I'm grateful for you too, Donny. I'm grateful that we're friends. I'm grateful that we did this show together tonight.
Same.
I'm grateful for Kamala Harris.
I am grateful for Kamala Harris. Like, can we talk about how monumental and beautiful her entire platform was?
Yeah.
It was very empowering, and I can't go back and watch the videos right now because I would cry, but like I was like going and like watching like the Kamala HQ, you know, the people behind that, they were doing some good work. They deserve all the accolades, the love. Yes, but I am grateful for them. I am grateful that I have the privilege of where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel I feel like there are people who are far more vulnerable than me right now because I do have that support network. Not everybody does have that. If you don't have that, I think there are things you can do to find it. If you're an LGBTQ plus person who needs a support network, maybe try to find a grassroots organization in your area to join. A local PFLAG chapter, for example, right? You know, you have to sometimes you have to search out for your family. All right, what else are you grateful for?
I am grateful for love.
Me too.
Grateful for love. You know, when you find love of your family, love of your friends, love of the people around you.
Yeah. I love that. No pun intended. I am grateful for nature. I had a moment yesterday during the thick of it. No, it was this morning. It was like this really cloudy but kind of rainy autumn day, and it smelled so good outside. And I just stood outside for a moment. I was just like it kind of let things fall away. I think that's one of my pieces of advice. If you need to get away from something, if you allow yourself the grace, grant yourself the permission to remove yourself from a situation so you can reorient yourself. Right? Because I feel like we don't do that often. I feel like we're kind of shamed from doing that. Yeah. I mean, you also commune with nature quite a bit, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking about it earlier. You were like, I had my door open, my window open.
The rain was going.
Rain. It was a very... Ari and I were talking about listening to lo-fi music and Enya last night.
I know.
Oh, did I have the Enya going? I was just like, sail away, sail away. I was sailing away.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing about it is that this is very, we still have a couple months until the inauguration. Mm-hmm. There are still things that are going to happen before Trump becomes president again.
Yeah. Biden still has power for a while, so
yeah.
I'm thinking he probably will use that wisely in the time.
Right.
That's usually what happens with presidents who are, what do they call the presidents who serve one term?
He's president-elect.
Oh, yeah, Trump is. Yeah, so the president's on the way out. They usually will make their final things. So there might be some good things to look forward to on that. Student loan debt, maybe. We'll see. But another thing I'm grateful for, I am grateful for creative outlets. I am so grateful.
Agreed.
For writing, this, gardening, although we shut down the garden. Although I will say our yard looks beautiful. We spent all day the other day doing nothing but yard work.
Wow.
And now and Britt put up Christmas decorations. So we literally have Christmas
decorations. I put up some Christmas decorations too. I'm about to put up my tree.
Oh my God. Send me pictures when you do. I need
to
see. He put up Christmas decorations outside, which we have not done yet since we've moved into this house. So
I'm not putting up Christmas decorations outside. That is too much work.
No. Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, I told Britt, I was like, if you want to do the work, that's fine. But now that I'm seeing the Christmas decorations, I'm kind of clinging to that as a little flicker of serotonin, let's just say.
Yeah, you need a little bit of the serotonin, I guess.
A little bit of the serotonin. But one more thing you're grateful for.
I am grateful for Larity.
We're grateful for our kitties. Oh my God.
Come here, Larity. Come here.
Have you cried with your cat yet? Oh, Larity. Look at how handsome Larity is.
Handsome boy.
I need him to have a little bow tie collar.
No, he won't do it. He hates wearing costumes. So look at how feisty he is right now. Oh, you're so feisty.
He's like, why are you holding me? Give me food instead.
I know. He's like, give me all the treats. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I'm grateful for the pets too. I remember this morning I snuggled Gaby and I started crying a bit. I was like, oh, you don't know what's happening, but I'm crying. Look at him. Look at him in the background trying to get your attention.
I know. He loves me so. So I was sitting on the couch and he came up to me and he put his little paw on me and he was like, it's okay.
Oh, they know.
I love you. I love you.
They know, don't they?
They do know. They do know.
Well, my friends, we've reached the end of this episode, I think. And without notes, we managed to talk for an entire hour. I am proud of us.
Yes.
Even though we are at the end of the show as a whole, like, I feel like we continually impress ourselves with our capabilities. So
we honestly could talk forever.
We probably could do like a 4-hour episode, but that would require, 4 hours, right? But final thoughts for the evening. What advice do you have? Looking forward.
Keep going. You've got this. It's going to be okay, but it's not going to be okay, but it's going to be okay.
Yeah. It's kind of perfect. Larity agrees with you. My advice is it's okay to be upset. Grant yourself the grace to grieve. And allies, my advice is to please check in on your friends who are in BIPOC communities, who are LGBTQ+, who are women. Like, please check in. Make sure that you are showing them that you're there for them. And I think in that solidarity, we can rebuild. And we will rebuild. We will get there again. All right? The future does seem bleak right now. But remember, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, it's not necessarily how we fall that matters, but it's what we do with ourselves after we pick ourselves up. Right? Anyway, we love you so much. And there's only a few episodes left, so absorb us while you can. Or go back and watch old episodes. I don't know what this is, the choreo.
This is the choreo.
But stay tuned. We will have a few more episodes. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for supporting us for 5 years. We love you. Keep your head up. And like Aris said, keep going. Bye.
Bye.